Now we move to the commandments. The 10 Commandments and the covenant with blood. So God uttered the 10 Commandments from the mountain in Exodus 20, and then immediately was a sacrifice the next day, next morning, early morning. They sacrificed and made the seal the covenant with the sacrifice. The 10 Commandments were given twice, just you remember that. Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. There are subtle differences between the two renderings of the commandments, especially on the Sabbath. The reasoning for why God gave the Sabbath in the Exodus 20 is one thing, and the other one in Deuteronomy is another thing. The reasoning in Deuteronomy was for the sake of man, for the servants, for the slaves, for the children, for the animals to take rest. While the number of the commandments into 10 words is consistent in the three main traditions. What traditions we're talking about? Rabbinic Jews, Hellenistic Jews, and church fathers. They're one group. The Catholic and the Lutheran is the third group. The division of the 10 varies. What am I saying here? You have three traditions of keeping the commandments. What Bible do the Rabbinic Judaism, the Rabbinic Jews have? It's the Hebrew, right? What Bible do the Hellenistic Jews and the church fathers have? If you remember from our first time. The Septuagint, the Greek. And the Catholic and the Lutheran have the Vulgate as the Latin version. There's difference. Okay. Did the Samaritan woman also refer to this prophet like Moses when she told Jesus? Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. This is true. The Samaritan woman, being a Samaritan, they didn't have the prophets. They only have the Torah of Moses as a Bible. And they had the prophet like Moses. Now, the commandments, and I want you to study this. This is important. You have questions on it in the quiz. The commandments are the same, but how we number them is different. From Rabbinic Jews to Hellenistic and church fathers to the Catholics. It's confusing because of the first two and the last one. The first two columns, Rabbinic and Hellenistic, are going to be similar in most part, which is totally different is the Catholic. We're going to see that. So the first commandment, as we've seen before in the promises, the Jews will recognize, I am the Lord your God, as a commandment, as they recognize it as a promise of sanctification. So that the name of God is the first. In their mind, they couldn't ignore this as a very significant item in the Decalogue. The Decalogue starts by the self-revelation of God. God is declaring himself, I am the Lord. So actually they say, the rest of the commandments are built on this one. If God is not God, then the rest of them means nothing. So that's what they say. This has to be self-identification of God as separate command. That's number one. While we, the church fathers, the Hellenistic Jews, they jump into immediately don't have other gods. That becomes number one. Don't have any other gods. What about the Catholics? They say, what's the difference between gods and images? It's the same. So they actually jump ahead more even. So they take the second and the third to become the first one, the gods and the images. The second one, which is our first one, they act like the Catholics. So they add the other gods and the images together. While in the church father Hellenistic, they say just the images. The second don't have any images. What about the Catholics? They move on. The name of God. Don't mention the name of God in a false oath. Swear by God when you don't mean to do anything. The third one is the false oath, and false oath in both of us, the Rabbinic and both of the Rabbinic and the Hellenistic, false oath. But then they jump the Catholic to the Sabbath. So the Catholic and the Lutheran will keep ahead of us by one all the time to the end. But how they balance it at the end, they split coveting a wife as a separate commandment from coveting property. They say we cannot equate the two. Coveting a wife is as much by itself as a commandment, and coveting property is not the same. All right. So let's keep up there for a little bit. What I want to do is, if we are going to do anything with any of the commandments, we'll keep the middle row. This is ours. Okay. but you understand where they are going. Let's go down. Let's get some notes. They are the 10 words by which God made his people. God uttered 10 words in the 6 days of creation to make life on earth. The 10 commandments are the creating words of Israel as the people of God. You think about it as almost God is creating his people, he's making them. The first 4 commandments are concern the relationship with God. The last 6 commandments concern the relationship with people. I'm talking again on the middle column. If you say first 4, talking about middle column, because that's what we have. 8 commandments are in the negation form. Do not. Do not have other gods. Do not utter the name of the Lord in vain. Do not kill. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Do not covet. And 2 are in the positive form. Keep the Sabbath holy and honor your father and your mother. The commandments are the code of living that bring the characters of people of God to reflect the characters of God. So this is a code of living, because if you're going to be my wife or my children, you need to know how I am dealing with things, how I think about things. So this actually reflects an image of God. Who is God? There is no other gods. He is the only God, the true God. There is nothing like him. That's the second commandment. There is nothing like God. The name of God is very powerful. The day of the Lord is the day of consecration, blessing and sanctifying. The parents is very important because they reflect God's image, because God is Father and he has a son. God is life and he's interested in living. God is pure and he's interested in purity. God is honest and interested in honesty. God is satisfied and complete and perfect, and he's the source of sanctification and completion and perfection. So don't covet. So in this way, God is showing himself to his children, to his people, and having them transform themselves to be like him. That's the whole point. To be like God. That's the main reason God created Adam in the beginning, to be in his image and to be like God, is to like what God likes, to be like him in every way possible. And because God was not revealed in a clear way in the Old Testament, God didn't show himself, visitation here and there, but not really in a very clear way. The commandments were more about what God is not. God is not a murderer. God is not a covetous God. Does not like the Greek gods, you know. You have a God of love, a God of war, a God of this, a God of that, a God of revenge, a God of, you know. The commandments were not more about what God is not. In the New Testament, the commandment refers to who God is, and with reference to his son, he said the one commandment that he gives us in the New Testament, love one another as I have loved you, meaning now you know what it seems like, what God is like. But in the Old Testament, nobody could say what God is like. He had to give the commandments. The commandments were arranged in order of importance. Blasphemy, insulting parents, murder, and adultery were capital offenses and were punishable with death. They were put in the very beginning. The 4 about God, then immediately the parents. Then after that, the 2 other ones, the murder and adultery. Those 4 were very significant. They're punishable by death if someone breaks them. While many of the laws in the Torah were completed by the coming of Christ, the 10 commandments are durable. Christ and the holy apostles taught the keeping of the 10 commandments. They have many references. These are not to be annihilated or stopped by coming of Christ.